I'm here with the Association of African Universities Television, AUTV. I just want to say that without the media, you won't know what's going on in the world.
Good morning and welcome to the Hello Africa morning show coming to you from the Association of African Universities here in Accra, Ghana, East Legon to be precise. My name is Philemon Edwards, and this morning is going to be a lot of things on our table to discuss. And I am guessing if you're a football fan, the Chelsea fans in particular, I don't know how your night was, but I know that it probably was an interesting night because nobody gave you a chance in this Club World Cup final, but you did school PSG last night, and congratulations to all Chelsea fans. And does this also mean that the Premiership is the best league in the world? I mean, that's a thing you can be arguing about, I know. Anyway, so congratulations to Chelsea fans. And it was interesting to see President Trump last night presenting medals. I've never seen him do such a thing before, but he looked quite excited doing that, and I think it was a good thing, presenting medals and presenting trophies as well. Anyway, on the show today, we are discussing a lot of things, like I said. The AAU is holding its general conference, or let me say the 16th general conference next week from the 21st to the 25th of July in Rabat, Morocco. I can't wait to hear the outcome of this general conference, but I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit more in the discussions today. And on a sad note, General Buhari has died in a hospital in London at the age of 82. God rest his soul, and our condolences to all Nigerians and to the Buhari family. So this morning, our articles and our discussions, our news, everything is all over in Africa. We are in Mali, we are in Nigeria, we're in Morocco, we are in Ghana, all over the place. Stay tuned. When we come back, we'll give you the top African news and then we'll get into the discussions. My name is Philemon Edwards. This program is proudly sponsored by Venom Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Bigo Drinks.
Welcome to the Top African Stories. My name is Chimaima Teladem Doche. Now, moving to the details, the Ministry of Energy has confirmed that the controversial One Ghana Cedi fuel levy would officially take effect on Wednesday, July 16. The government defends the measure as crucial to rescuing the country's struggling energy sector, despite widespread public backlash over higher living costs. Officials say the levy is vital to tackle massive debt inherited in the power sector and ensure stable electricity supply. But critics warn it could push fuel prices higher and deepen economic hardship for ordinary Ghanaians.
Ghana's Ministry of Energy has reaffirmed that the One Ghana Cedi fuel levy will take effect from Wednesday, July 16, a move authorities insist is critical to saving the nation's power sector from financial collapse. Speaking on one of the local media stations, the ministry's spokesperson Richmond Roxon confirmed the start date, stating that the current administration inherited a sector weighed down by enormous debts and long-standing inefficiencies. He emphasized that the levy is a necessary corrective step to sustain power generation and secure the country's energy future. According to Roxon, the burden facing the sector extends beyond electricity into petroleum and other energy segments, and he urged Ghanaians to see the levy as a collective sacrifice required to stabilize the industry. Public reaction, however, has been fierce. News of the One Ghana cedi levy first announced months ago sparked widespread outrage, with many citizens and opposition parties voicing fears it will further strain already high cost of living. Despite the criticism, the Energy Ministry remains resolute. Officials say the Ghana Revenue Authority has been authorized to collect the new levy, underlining that without decisive action, the sector's financial woes could worsen, threatening long-term energy security. While the debate continues, Ghanaians are bracing for the economic impact when the levy officially comes into force next Wednesday.
And moving on, tensions are brewing between Ghana and the United States over new visa restrictions imposed on Ghanaian travelers. The U.S. has slashed the validity of B1, B2 visas from 5 years to just 3 months, a move Ghana says undermines long-standing reciprocal agreement. While Ghana insists it remains committed to partnership, it also pushing for talks to resolve the standoff. The dispute comes even as Ghana continues to issue long-term visas to Americans, highlighting a stark imbalance in travel policies.
Ghana's government is pushing back after the United States drastically reduced the validity of B1, B2 visas for Ghanaian travelers from 5-year multiple entry permits to just 3 months single entry. In a statement, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed concern, describing the new restrictions as a significant shift from the mutual visa arrangements that have long existed between the two countries. Officials acknowledged the inconvenience this poses for Ghanaians traveling to the U.S. for business, education, medical care, tourism, and family visas. While Ghana respects every nation's right to determine its own visa policies, the ministry noted that these new limits diverge sharply from previous reciprocal agreements. The government, however, affirmed its commitment to maintaining strong relations with Washington and vowed to work quickly toward resolving the dispute. The U.S. cited confirmed visa overstays as a key reason behind its decision. In response, Ghana has pledged to tighten compliance measures for travelers seeking American visas. Meanwhile, Ghana's own visa data paints a stark contrast. Between January and July this year, Ghana's missions in Washington, D.C. and New York issued over 40,600 visas, including nearly 28,630 multiple entry visas to U.S. passport holders, accounting for more than 70% of all visas granted during that period. The ministry clarified that Ghana offers U.S. citizens long-term visas valid for up to 5 years, with additional options ranging from 6 months to 4 years, depending on eligibility. Despite the diplomatic tension, Ghana says it remains eager to preserve its partnership with the United States and to keep doors open for travel and cooperation between the two nations.
Nigeria's government is standing firm against pressure from the Trump administration to accept Venezuelan deportees and third country prisoners from U.S. Foreign Minister Yusuf Tuga, who says the country cannot shoulder Americans' immigration challenges, stressing Nigeria has its own domestic priorities. The standoff comes as Washington threatens visa restrictions and new tariffs for non-compliance, escalating tension over migration and foreign policy.
Nigeria is drawing a hard line against the Trump administration's demand to accept deportees from Venezuela and third country prisoners currently in U.S. custody. Tuga stressed that Nigeria, already home to more than 230 million people, is in no position to absorb hundreds of Venezuelan deportees. He warned it would be unfair to expect Nigeria to solve American immigration issues, adding that critics will be quick to condemn Nigeria if it agreed to such terms. The foreign minister comments follow threats from Washington to impose tighter visa restrictions and increase tariffs on countries that refuse U.S. deportation policies. Already, the State Department has slashed visa validity for Nigerian travelers from 5 years to just 3 months, a move Nigerian views as pressure tactic rather than reciprocal diplomacy. Meanwhile, President Trump has signaled further economic measures for nations aligned with BRICS policy that counter U.S. interests. Though Nigeria is not a full BRICS member, it joined as a partner nation earlier this year, raising questions about potential fallout. Tuga emphasized that while Nigeria values its relationship with the United States and is engaging in dialogue to resolve differences, the country cannot accept Venezuelan prisoners or deportees given its own economic and social challenges. He noted that Nigeria is exploring partnerships with the US in sectors like gas and critical minerals essential to American technology industries. As the diplomatic tug of war continues, analysts warn that immigration policies could increasingly spill over economic and geopolitical relations between the two nations.
Mali's military ruler, General Assimi Goïta, has signed a law granting himself a new 5-year presidential term, renewable indefinitely and without elections. The move passed by the military-appointed legislature comes despite earlier pledges to restore civilian rule. It follows growing restrictions on political freedom, including the dissolution of all political parties and arrest of pro-democracy activists, as Mali remains crippled by instability and violence.
Mali's political landscape has taken a dramatic turn as the country's military leader, General Assimi Goïta, has officially granted himself a 5-year presidential mandate, renewable without limit and without election. The controversial law signed on Thursday follows recommendations from the Nation Dialogue organized in April by the military regime. That dialogue, however, was boycotted by most political parties. The bill was swiftly passed by Mali's military-appointed legislative body last week. Under the new legislation, Goïta is now set to remain in power at least until 2030, despite earlier promises by the military government to return the nation to civilian rule by March 2024. In earlier sign of tightening political control, General Goïta issued a decree in May dissolving all political parties. In a further sign of tightening political control, General Goïta issued a decree in May dissolving all political parties, a decision that coincided with the surging of kidnappings targeting pro-democracy activists in the capital, Bamako. The decree came just days after hundreds gathered in the protest. Observers say the new law is the latest in the series of escalating restrictions on civil liberties as Mali's junta seeks to consolidate its authority in the nation, already grappling with jihadist insurgencies linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State group. General Goïta, who seized power through 2 coups in 2020 and 2021, has faced widespread criticism from both democratic and international actors concerned about the erosion of democratic governance. Mali, a landlocked country in the semi-arid Sahel region, has endured years of instability that has swept across much of West and Central Africa. With political freedom shrinking and conflicts persisting, the road ahead remains uncertain for millions of Malians hoping for the return to democracy.
Nigeria is losing nearly $4 billion annually due to imported steel, according to Minister of Steel, Shaibu Udu. As the country prepares for the National Steel Summit in July, hopes are high for a turnaround. The revival of the Ajaokuta steel plant is also on the horizon, with partial operations expected before Tinubu's term ends.
The announcement comes ahead of the inaugural National Steel Summit, scheduled for July 16 and 17 of 2025 at the Nigerian Air Force Conference Center. Minister Audu expressed optimism, saying that indigenous steel production, particularly through the Ajaokuta steel plant, could soon reverse these losses. A pilot operation of Ajaokuta is expected to begin before President Bola Tinubu's first term comes to an end. The government's push includes legal reforms such as the proposed Nigeria Metallurgical Industry Bill, foreign investment, and donor support, all aimed at overhauling decades of stagnation in the steel sector. The summit will also serve as a platform for stakeholder engagement and investment discussions with the broader goal of reducing Nigeria's dependence on imported steel and moving toward industrial self-sufficiency. But steel isn't the only sector bleeding money. Reports show Nigeria loses over $3 billion in unrealized export potential and ranks third in Africa for financial fraud losses at an average of $425 per scam. Still, with fresh investment deals, including a $14 billion commitment from Indian investors and our coordinated revival plan, stakeholders are cautiously hopeful that Nigeria's steel story may finally forge a stronger future.
That is all for the top African stories. My name is Chimaima Daladem Doche. Up next is our news review. Stay tuned.
Explore a whole new world of exciting visuals with AAU TV. Get ready for a mix of interesting talk shows, interviews, discovery documentaries, and news on AAU TV. It's not just about watching TV, it's about experiencing something special. AAU TV reaches over 25 countries in Africa, bringing you a blend of knowledge and fun. Learn about different cultures as you enjoy the shows. If you have events or want to showcase your business, we've got you covered. Watch AAU TV free-to-air channel on satellite. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter, at AAU TV. Reach out on call or WhatsApp us at +233 26 629 6601 or +233 20 399 5210. AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa.
Are you a university, college, high school, private organization, NGO, individual professor, instructor or facilitator seeking to take advantage of the numerous benefits of online education? Look no further. The AAU eLearn Africa LMS is a great opportunity to begin your journey to online course development and creation for teaching, learning and training purposes. AAU eLearn Africa LMS, which is a partnership between the Association of African Universities and eLearn Africa, has made available ease to use online learning tools to all stakeholders within the educational ecosystem of the African continent. This is to enhance teaching and learning in the bid to expand online learning opportunities for students in Africa. The online platform is open and available for free to all stakeholders and facilitates virtual access to classes without needing the other tools such as Zoom, Microsoft Teams, among others. For more information, visit www.elearnafricalms.com or contact us via aaulms@aau.org or estherm@elearnafrica.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at AAU eLearn Africa LMS.
This program is proudly sponsored by Venom Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Bigo Drinks. All right, welcome back from that break. And if you just missed it, we had just finished the top African news, and we're just about to delve into our discussions. And I'm going to be doing this with my brother, Dr. Ajimano Tredakun. How are you doing, Doc?
I feel I'm doing good by God's grace. And you?
I'm doing fine too. And I can see the broad smile on your face. Particularly, I don't need to be told. It's just because your team,
Yes.
Chelsea,
Yes.
the Stamford Bridge Soldiers,
Yes.
the men in blue,
The heroes of the Blue Heroes.
the Blue Heroes,
Yes.
they are the World Cup winners of the clubs.
Absolutely.
Can we safely say you are the best club in the world?
Come on, guys. Come on. Man, you can be bitter as you want to be, but just let the truth breathe. In the sense that the tournament's name was Club World Cup. And the winner of the Club World Cup is and should be
Chelsea
the best
FC.
club in the world. So, I mean,
Arguably.
undoubtedly.
Arguably.
Yeah, we are actually inviting our queens. So, we are actually opening Chelsea Queens.
Okay.
So, Amma and Co should just join
Okay.
as Queens of Chelsea.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I can understand where you're coming from and your sentiments. I mean, because PSG at the moment are in the form of their lives. So if you have beaten them convincingly 3-0, man, I can't wait for the Premier League to start next month on the 15th of August. I can't wait to watch
Right
this.
now, we are bigger than the Premier League.
Of course.
Yes, we are bigger
I
than
love this.
Premier League.
I
We
love
are
this.
bigger than Europa League.
You
We are the biggest.
You know, what's interesting about the Premiership is that you see all of these things you are doing right now, and you are happy about winning over PSG. You meet a team like Brentford, Fulham, and then you discipline you properly. Like, this is an interesting thing I like about
So
the
you see,
Premiership.
the thing is, as at the moment, if you were a team in England and you couldn't make it to the Club World Cup, you should keep quiet. That's the first thing.
This
You should keep quiet.
This is some shame.
Now, if you are
This is some shame.
if you are in England and you made it to the Club World Cup
Okay.
and you didn't make it to the semi-finals, you should keep quiet.
Oh God.
The kind of team
Stray
and
bullets.
tactics that we used to get there,
Stray bullets to Manchester
you
City.
better watch out. You better watch out.
All right, so congratulations to Chelsea and all Chelsea fans across the world. Remember, if you just tune in, you can watch us live on the Association of African Universities on Facebook and then YouTube. And then join the conversation on WhatsApp on the number +233 266 296601. The number again is +233 266 296601. And we want to begin our discussion straight from Nigeria. Have you heard about General Buhari's death?
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate turnout. I mean, the man has served his country well for so many years in the military, and concluded that with being president of Nigeria, he also added his own quota to Nigeria's development trajectory. So, I mean, a man will have to rise, but will have to fall. So a soldier has fallen, a leader has fallen. In Nigeria, we share sincere condolence with you on your loss. We believe that it will be a moment for the family to stand tall and uphold this as part of nature.
All right, so let's just get a little bit into General Buhari's life. So Nigeria's former president, Muhammadu Buhari, has died at the age of 82 in a London clinic, closing the chapter on a life that spanned over 6 decades of military service, political leadership, and national debate. Once a military ruler and later an elected president, Buhari leaves behind a complex legacy marked by austere discipline, anti-corruption rhetoric, unfulfilled promises, and deep national divisions. Buhari rose to national prominence in 1983 when he became Nigeria's military ruler following a coup against President Shehu Shagari. His 20th military regime was defined by a draconian war against indiscipline, harsh crackdowns on dissent, and bold anti-corruption measures. Public floggings, press suppression, and even the jailing of Afrobeat legend Fela Kuti remain unforgettable hallmarks of that period. Although overthrown in 1985, Buhari's image as a no-nonsense disciplinarian endured, especially in Nigeria's north, where he remained popular with the working class Talakawa. In a dramatic turn, Buhari rebranded as a converted Democrat and contested several presidential elections, finally securing victory in 2015, becoming the first opposition candidate to unseat an incumbent in Nigeria's history. He was re-elected in 2019. Now let's go a little bit into his promises and the reality of his presidency. So Buhari's campaign's promises focus on tackling corruption, improving security, and creating jobs for Nigeria's beginning youth population. Yet his time in office coincided with a steep oil price collapse, triggering Nigeria's worst economic crisis in decades. Unemployment soared and inflation drove the cost of living to record highs. One symbol of his economic hardship was the price of a 50-kilogram bag of rice, which shot up from 7,500 naira under Goodluck Jonathan to 60,000 naira during Buhari's tenure. This inflation became a haunting metaphor for the struggles of everyday Nigerians. His controversial rice import ban, intended to boost local production, failed to match consumer demand, worsening hunger and poverty in many parts of the country. I mean, the article and the story goes on and on and on and on. But let's just discuss briefly the political life of General Buhari. One thing I remember him for was a bit of insecurity and issues around Boko Haram and banditry and things of that nature. And it was during his era that we saw this NSAS protest as well, when some Nigerians lost their lives and all of that, this Lekki Toge thing and all of that. I mean, what do you remember about General Buhari?
I mean, you can talk about the rice, the ban on rice importation, and the need to boost the local production of rice for Nigerians, even though it had its own effects on the Nigerian economy. But I mean, that's what he wanted to do. The goal was to find a way to enhance the production of local goods and also place premium on local products rather than importing them, because some economies are heavily import-induced, and something like Ghana wants to find a way to detach itself from imports, but it keeps coming back again. But Nigeria took this bold move that we're not importing any foreign rice. And I was in Nigeria for a number of years, and I saw that there was no imported rice. It was just local rice. And you have to like it. So I grew to like local rice in Nigeria, and it has supported the local rice industry. I believe that even though it was a very harsh one, but the long-term effect was that it was able to boost their local rice production and place reliance on their local economies. He may have not solved all the problems in Nigeria. We should appreciate that you can't solve everything. But at least you can come and then place emphasis on an area that you can develop, in which I believe that he did his best to boost local economies, which is in its sense enough. For the others, the issue of Boko Haram, it couldn't have been the best. It could have been the best way to end it. Even though during this time there was serious effects, Boko Haram making its effect in the northern part of Nigeria and all that. But what would you have him do? I mean, the best he could do was just provide that kind of support for his people. So General Buhari's tenure would have been the best or the rosiest for Nigeria, but at least I think that he made some strides for his people that I believe should be acknowledged no matter what.
I definitely agree with you on that. Regarding the Boko Haram issues, what I figured was that, or I understood at the time, was that because he's from the northern part of Nigeria, it was anticipated that he was going to use his influence as a northern leader to handle the issues of Boko Haram and all of these issues that were coming up from the northern part of Nigeria. But people felt disappointed because he couldn't do much in that regard, or let me say he didn't do what they expected. I mean, the issue was handled to a certain extent, but obviously, like you said, not every of the issues were, in the opinions of the general populace of Nigeria, handled satisfactorily. So people may have their issues here and there, but to a large extent, he has contributed his quota as a military person for Nigeria, and then serving again as president. And to tell you that he was able to come back from a coup regime, then rebranded to come into a system of democracy, to be re-elected in 2015, I mean, it says a lot. So for me, he is a person of a strong personality, because it's not going to be easy to have such a background of what he has. I mean, for a person who has engaged in a coup d'etat sort of before, it's not going to be easy to convince the people of your country who know this history about you, and then you come back and rebrand as a democratic whatever, and then you are affiliated with a political party, and you want to come back as president. It's not easy. For him to have been able to do that, I think it's a plus to him. I mean, so regardless of all of the things we can talk about, controversies here and there, people not satisfied about Boko Haram, the NSAS situation, and all of that. In every sense of whatever anybody thinks, General Buhari has contributed his quota to Nigeria's development.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So to Nigeria again, we say condolences to you. I believe all of Africa will join their voices as we wish you our condolences, and especially to the Buhari family. I bet this funeral is going to be one of the biggest in Africa, and most presidents from Africa will be there in Nigeria. Well, let's move on to the next story, which is very interesting, very, very homely because it's consensus, and this is the AAU 16th conference in Morocco, Rabat. So the Association of African Universities has officially announced its upcoming 16th Quadrennial General Conference, scheduled to take place from July 21 to 25, 2025 in Rabat, Morocco. The event will be co-hosted by two prominent Moroccan AAU member universities, Mohammed VI Polytechnic University and Mohammed V University. As the AAU's flagship policy and governance event, the General Conference convenes once every 4 years, drawing together higher education stakeholders from across the continent and beyond. It serves as the supreme governing platform for the association and plays a crucial role in determining the strategic direction and policy priorities of the AAU. The theme for this year's conference is shaping the future of higher education for innovation and sustainable development in Africa, and it reflects a forward-thinking approach towards transforming Africa's educational landscape. The conference also aligns closely with Agenda 2063, the African Union strategic framework for the continent's socio-economic transformation, and emphasizes sustainable growth through innovation. Key attendees will include vice chancellors, deans, registrars, ICT and internationalization officers, policymakers, researchers, development partners, government officials, youth representatives, and industry partners involved in education and skills development. Now, the conference will be guided by three primary objectives. Number one, improving access and equity in higher education with an emphasis on reducing entry barriers and increasing retention. Number two, strengthening research and innovation ecosystems through increased funding and localized solutions. And then finally, mainstreaming sustainable development goals, SDGs, into curricular and institutional operations to support long-term societal transformation.
Sure.
Doc, what do you think about the theme for this year's conference, shaping the future of higher education for innovation and sustainable development in Africa?
Interestingly, one cannot say much, but a timely theme for a time like this, when the AAU, which has been a body spearheading and streamlining policy advocacy for African higher education institutions, enhancing research excellence, and trying to connect African investors to be one, and has been doing this for the past 58 years. Today, decides to go back home to where it was born. So, you know, the story is interesting. In 1967, in November, when 34 universities met in Rabat, Morocco, to see the advice that had been generated after a UNECA conference, that there was a need to have an association of African universities that would be an association that would stand for the interests of African universities, that would lead the cause of African universities, that would build its collective capacity, that would also advocate for policies which are favorable for them as they grow. African universities needs a unifying voice. African universities needs a unified front that will help them leverage upon their capacity, build transboundary relationships, and grow in their networks. And you needed somebody to spearhead this. And the association was born out of this. And for the past 58 years, the association have done its best to ensure these things. But you know, quality requires that we grow in prospects. That is why, as part of the fact that the AAU was trying to bring back its stakeholders back home to where it was born, it is also highlighting a very important item which matters to today's 21st century education, which is to shape the future of African higher education in the areas of innovation, sustainable development. Today, innovativeness is the order of the day. You
Yeah.
cannot keep doing what you were doing
Yeah.
10 years ago today.
Yeah.
You have to adapt to the times.
Yeah.
Times are evolving, so you need to adapt.
Yeah.
And that is why innovation matters in everything that we do. And also, sustainable development, it has stood out as a very viable footprint that could be adopted to grow systems. So look at ending poverty, enhancing inclusive education, sustainable jobs, partnership number 17, and a whole lot more. If you're an institution and you adopt this blueprint, as well as other continental blueprints, you are able to position yourself properly for growth and development. And the AAU is trying to put them all together this time. So it will be a great loss if you don't make it to this conference, because beyond the theme and what it offers, there are other side attractions that you don't want to miss. You have so many international development agencies who are showing up over there.
Okay.
The likes of the publishers, so many journal organizations. You have the Obrego Globals, UNESCO, and a whole lot more are going to be there. They want to also see these institutions want to also find a way to engage with African investors. They want to meet them. They want to hear their issues. They want to broker partnerships. They want to build MOUs that would turn things around, transformative MOUs. So if you don't make it there, you actually place your institution and your interests at a very bad point. Be there, connect, network, gain contact, and now find a way to build your school or your institution's future through these very enabled partnerships that will be made over there.
Right.
So you have to be there.
Yeah, that's a lot of interesting points you have made in this submission. One of my highlights comes with the primary objectives, which is the objective number 2, which is strengthening research and innovation ecosystems through increased funding and localized solutions. I can say more or less about this objective because I've always said, especially on this show, that one of the things that cripples Africa is research and innovation. I mean, it's about that time we have to start looking into it and be able to have a proper plan, not just a proper plan, but a sustainable one, which is going to guide us not for just 5 years, but 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, the next 50 years, or even into the next 100 years. Because the kind of things that come out of Africa, or let me say even the human resources that come out of Africa that spearhead researchers in other continents, it's crazy. If we can find a way to use all these human resources in Africa to strengthen Africa's research and be innovative about things, I believe that we can catch up with Europe.
Absolutely.
We can catch up with Asia.
Yeah.
So these are one of the things. This is one of the things that I see in the objective that I am so fascinated about. Like, I cannot wait to see how the policies will begin to play out and the institutions begin to align and follow this, policies and make sure that these things will become a reality. Right now, it feels like a plan. It feels like a dream. It's on paper. It's an objective. But the process is what I'm interested in, because I believe that at the conference is going to be discussed into details. The stakeholders will be there to outline whatever has to be done and all of that. I just pray and hope that our vice chancellors, our deans, our registrars, the heads of the institutions, and especially the governments. That's a key thing for me, because many of these universities are in countries. Most governments have budgets for education. But I pray the African governments, if you're watching this show, you're listening to us, invest in research. Let your higher education institutions be properly funded. And spearhead research and innovation in Africa. It's one of the ways we can easily get out of poverty as a continent.
And undoubtedly, development agencies like the World Bank, UNESCO, and a whole lot more out there are also going to be there, because they also believe that they could also play a part to bridge this knowledge gap. And they feel like, well, the only way we could strengthen research and innovation ecosystems is by providing funding. African institutions are not handicapped when it comes to innovation. We are not blank when it comes to research that transforms. The only thing that incapacitates the African space and its institutions is the funding and resources, because we don't have them. If we had them, we would have made a difference.
Exactly.
So, and that's why they are there. They'll be there to identify these ideas, broker new ideas, find a way to co-create.
Yeah.
So now knowledge is not transferred from the north again, but we are trying to now build knowledge consensus, co-create knowledge, and not transfer for adoption. So it will be great for you to be there. You have like 500, 700 delegates coming on board across the world. So where would you want to be? If not for Morocco Rabat, come on.
And it is open to young people, especially students, not only the policymakers and the people at the forefront of higher education in Africa and across the world. If you're interested, make contact with the EU, and then you'll be guided as to how you can be a part of this conference, regardless of who you are. So like Dr. Ajman is saying, just be part of this. And I hope that even if you're unable to attend, you'll be able to follow whilst the conference is going on from 21st to the 25th of July in Rabat.
And you've
Morocco.
got the link on the screen and also the contact for any information.
Exactly.
You should be there. I mean, we have got like 2 weeks to the event, so you should put things together. If you are a researcher, you are a registrar, you can be a financial representative, a BESA, anything you are in any higher education institution, there is something for you at this conference. There are special sessions meant to build capacity for all of these higher education stakeholders, from both academic and non-academic. So it's everything for everybody in there that you should try and make it.
Yeah, great. So before we get into our next story, which I know Dr. Ajman is interested in, and he will lead on that, let's take some messages that have come in so far. And this one is coming from Chinedu in Nigeria. He says, for many of us in the north, Buhari started off as a symbol of hope, but by the end of his tenure, that hope gave way to frustration as banditry and poverty worsened. Still, in all his imperfections, he was a leader, and we as Nigerians are grateful for his service. Well, like we were saying, regardless of the countless whatever situation we may not be satisfied with, he's contributed his quota. And this also comes from Nathaniel, University of Ghana. He says, I wish I could attend the conference, but the distance and cost make it challenging. Events like these are such valuable opportunities for students like us who are eager to engage, learn, and contribute to shaping the future of education in Africa. I really hope Ghana gets to host the next one. It would make such a difference for many of us. Well, that's an interesting point. This one also comes from Rosemont in Central University, and it says, it's interesting how conversations around higher education and continental conferences like the AAU rarely make it to the front lines for Ghanaian students. You would hardly hear about them unless you are already in academic circles. Meanwhile, these are the spaces that shape policies, funding, and the future of learning in Africa. We need more visibility and student inclusion because we are the ones the systems are supposed to serve. And then another one here is coming from Thelma in Kumasi, and it says, one thing that often goes unnoticed is how disconnected many Ghanaian students are from the major conversations shaping higher education across Africa. Events like the AAU conference, which bring together policymakers, academics, and key stakeholders, but the students who are directly affected are barely part of the room. I think I want to agree with Thelma on this message. I feel like students do not really take part or interact when it comes to higher education issues that matter. Often, when you are on X, formerly Twitter or Facebook, the banter you see on universities usually are not very relevant issues. For example, last week, one of the trending issues were hostel facilities between universities in Ghana and the universities in Nigeria. Well, it's a big deal in a certain sense, but there are bigger issues than that. So I saw pictures of the UPSA hostel, which some people in Nigeria claim will be like a Lekki or Banana Island kind of accommodation. But this is what students in Ghana are enjoying. And then they put up pictures of some hostel facilities in Nigeria, which, I mean, honestly, if you compare the two, even with just the UPSA hostel alone, you could tell the difference was really vast. Well, it's a big deal, but I think there are bigger issues when it comes to higher education. And these are the conversations that when we are involved in, it can influence such things, and then proper infrastructure can be put in place for universities across Africa.
And just to emphasize that, though, these events are targeted at university leadership. Yeah, so, I mean, you can have some student leadership representing.
That's true.
Because, I mean, it's just like trying to say that if any institution lacks that strategic excellence, there's a lot to lose as the value chain cascades.
Yeah.
So if we're able to strengthen, build capacity, and transform and revive or revamp investor leadership, put them on the right track, we believe that it would have a positive ripple effect on all the stakeholders who are beneath the order, to even students. So the AAU was trying its best to try and find a way to strengthen university leadership so it could also have a cascading effect on the students in the long run.
Right.
Yes.
Great. All right, so we'll move on into the next story, which is story number 3, accountability series. You want to lead that?
You
I
know,
think it's a subject you're interested in.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that the government of Ghana is rolling out a new initiative called the Accountability Series as part of its post-election promises. I mean, the aim is to try and then build that transparency where whatever government is doing will be laid out to the public, and you take the public with you on every step or every frontier. And that is the best thing you could ever do as a government, because if you are transparent, it goes a long way to build the trust that the public has in you. So it's a very good thing that they're doing. You know, I hope it doesn't end up the other way around. You know, transparency is one of the most difficult things you could do. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things happen within these corridors of power. So one could just say that, well, I hope that we're not only given those good things and the rest are hidden, because they will surely pop up. But it's right that we have these sessions. I learned they will have them on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m., where these sector ministers, the Minister for Communication and the Presidency, the Minister for Interior, would be giving these updates on what's happening. Interior is very important, because Interior, we're able to know what is happening within the country in terms of its coordination, and also the Minister for Communication, Government Communication, will also be there to give us that updates about what government seeks to do in everything.
Yeah.
You know, it can be compared to what's happening in the USA with Donald Trump giving hearing to these journalists. But you know, on the Trump level, Trump is very selective on what he does. No,
well,
he will give you accolades if you ask the right questions that will make him happy. If you ask the wrong question, he will say you are a bad person. You are a CNN. You are with this. You're not good. But that's not the best thing to do. If you open the room for the press to engage you, whatever they ask you, it's legitimate. So far, it doesn't go against you as a person. And they want to find the truth for everything. You have to answer them, and don't attack them and say you are a bad reporter. Answer them as it is. So if the president is now opening its doors to journalists and the public to find out how his government is transcending day by day, then I believe that they should be ready to answer every question that they will be asked. So we will not find anyone attacking anybody or just giving priority to people whom they like. In the industry today, you know that our media spaces, unlike before, it's kind of like polarized. People ask questions because they want to gratify government and not to put government on the point of accountability. So it should be accountability in its 100% phase, not accountability in its wrapped phase, galvanized phase, where you have one side trying to be accountable, but there are some secrets that have been wrapped and nobody's asking about them. If we want to be real, let's be real fully. And I believe this one should set it off as such.
I also agree with you, because I've been thinking that will this be a meaningful step to real transparency when it comes to governance in this country, or is this just one of the gimmicks of politics and PR that we have seen probably in past governments, which many people were not satisfied with, because people tend to want to engage the government on the hard questions, and then it doesn't look like the answers that are required are given, you know, that kind of a thing. I hope that nothing is going to be swept under the carpet this time around when this conversations begin. Okay, so to a large extent, and what should Ghanaians expect from these sessions with the Interior Minister, which I think begins today?
Yeah, I mean, today everybody, I believe the majority of well-meaning journalists in the country should be asking the Interior Minister that if what happened in Ablekuma is anything to go by, then we are not safe in this country. Then he, in that office, has no control over his ministry. Because whatever happened in Ablekuma is a travesty of good governance, it's a travesty of democracy, a travesty of free and fair, sound election. If we are trying to go by what happened, if we can't, in our own authority as a country, protect the rights and safety of every Ghanaian and would let it out to be trampled upon by unknown persons, then we are in deep waters.
Yeah.
There are videos circulated. If you were on Facebook over the weekend,
Yeah.
you saw that these persons were encroached the election area, and the first altercation that happened on that fateful morning was caused by this group of men who dressed up in funny uniforms.
Yeah.
Some military, some whatever. And the police held them, engaged them. A journalist from TV3 interviewed the leader of that group and said they were from Ayawase Central. And they were there with their executives. You can see executives wearing jackets. What kind of executives who look like thugs? Executives who look like thugs over there. And the police claimed to have engaged them, spoken to them, and that there were no threats. The same persons were the ones who caused all the chaos over there.
Yeah.
It is basically a travesty of what we call as good governance. And it's a big shame. It's a big indictment on police integrity, a big indictment on the Interior Minister's integrity, and anything else that we can say. And the truth is one, and it's bitter, and it must be said. So he should be able to provide answers. If he's trying to be retributive, he should say that yes, in Ghana we've had series of attacks. So in 2022 we had one in Ayawaso, we had one in Itiwa. So we are also being retributive. Then Ghanaians will know that every year during every election, the incumbent government finds a way to pay back the opposition.
Yeah.
So we now get used to the flow.
Yeah.
If not, then he should be responsible for whatever that happened in Ablekuma, because indeed a big travesty on this good office as Interior, and also to the police as well.
Now, I mean, even before the situation that happened in Ablekuma North last week, already the NPP has been, who are now in opposition, or the minority in parliament now, have been saying one thing for a while now. And their issue was that they guess that some things, I am happy about some level of honesty on their part, saying that during their tenure in the past 8 years, some things happened. But should it be the way this current government should go?
Yeah.
Should they also retaliate? I mean, let's assume if that's what the order is going to be, which is not the best anyway, whose interest is it going to serve? Because you are brought into government to serve the people of the country that you govern. So when you have found the chance, or you are given the opportunity to be in government, are you supposed to be doing the things that you need to do, or you are supposed to be witch hunting and then doing other things against your opponents? I mean, I get the fact that there's some level of accountability everybody would want to have some answers to, probably with the past government. But should it come to that point where we are talking about issues where, like you're saying, it's looking like somebody's retaliating against the past government and things of that nature? I mean, for me, if we are talking about proper democracy, if you are an incumbent, you've got to do the things right, so that when you are out of office,
the people will judge you based on your integrity.
Exactly.
You know what? It's a clear sign that the incumbent government has a lot to do in upholding the rule of law, and making the law be its own emitting source for governance. In the previous government, a law was passed to ban vigilantism. So there was an anti-vigilante act that was out there to suspend any act of tax vigilantes who are used to supplement or complement or whatsoever it is elections or whatsoever, they are the problem. We have the police, we have the army, and it's enough. We don't need any vigilantes to supplement our safety whatsoever.
Yeah.
But today you see that, well, it didn't really sink well, and that law didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Today, it has been enhanced. It was fully displayed, very glary over there. People were haunted. There were so many people who were frightened. They couldn't go and vote because these thugs were all over the place attacking people. And this is one way to suppress voter freedom and then allow voters to now be full of fear. Is this the kind of trend we want to set in our country, where we now find a way to propagate fear and put them in our voters so they can't go and vote? A time cometh where the Ghanaian citizen then will just stay at home. Yes, because when you step out to vote, you are not safe. You are not safe. You have a party who marshal its tax to come and put fear in you and not make you vote because they want their candidate to win. Is this the future we want to set for ourselves in this country? So as you mentioned, as government of the day, you owe the utmost responsibility to ensure the safety of your citizens. Ghanaians don't walk around with colors in their blood. There's no blue color. Everybody's blood is red. So it is a sign that if you are president for all. And everybody should matter to you. This is the call of the day.
Moving on from political violence, one of the things I also believe is going to be key is the issues of Galamsey and security. Because 6 months down the line for this new government, to me, it doesn't look like a lot of efforts have gone into clamping down the illegal miners. And that's a major thing I would want to see or hear the response from the Interior Minister, because it's a big deal. We did bash the previous government because back then the former president did say categorically that he was putting his job on the line, his job as president on the line, to make sure Galamsey is out of place and our rivers will begin to have their natural colors again. But unfortunately that didn't happen. So 6 months down the line into this new administration, in my opinion, a lot of efforts may have been done, but we want to see results. So in the absence of the results, how deep are these efforts? How wide has it gone? And what is the future of this problem?
Phil, I share your plans, okay? You mentioned something about the effort that had been made by some governments in the past. 8 years ago, the Nana Akufo-Addo government decided to put his presidency on the line. He said that emphatically, and everything he had to do to ensure that Galamsey was a thing of the past, or would be a thing of the past. It costed him a lot because it became an opportunity for the opposition at that time to campaign that all persons who have been arrested through Galamsey will be released, and he did that. It was also an avenue to cause hate for the present government because, yes, Galamsey is one big survival activity for many. So if you capitalize on that, you make it. Today, they are reaping its own effect. And let me get to that. He commissioned the Operation Vanguard, who risked their life and went out there to attack and to arrest and apprehend all these corporates out there who were causing distraction to our environment. Even though there were rumors that some of them were compromised and were working with these Chinese and co over there. What we saw was there were some very serious attacks over there, so far as we were concerned. Before the government came into power, it made some very important points. It advised the previous government that you should declare a state of emergency. What that means is that you need to prioritize Galamsey as a very deteriorated activity and put out there the military to go hunt and gun down, shoot to kill anybody who is caught in this activity, because we cannot keep and wait for this to destroy us. This was the advice that the opposition at that time gave the incumbent government. Today,
opposition
is in power. And the first thing that could happen was that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources shed tears. Honorable Amba Kofi Boah came on TV, engaged the public, and was shedding tears about how Galamsey had destroyed our environment. What a very cunning way. If you come and shed tears, what do you expect from me as a countryman? You are in power. You have got the power to seize this menace.
Yeah.
You are crying. I should also cry. Is that what we want to do now? Today, you find the leader of the Mineral Development Fund, MDF, Dr. Hannah Bisu Kote, is now the commando. She is now the commando in the bushes, followed by policemen and other people going to attack, going to apprehend Chinese.
That's one thing I've seen on the news.
What kind of Hollywood?
I don't get the presence of her on the
What kind of Hollywood movie is this? Are we bringing Hollywood? Is there a Hollywood sequel here in Ghana? What kind of show off is that? Is that her mandate?
It's a thing I have been thinking about.
She is mandated, yes, to ensure the sanity of the resources, natural resources in Ghana. Yes. But she is not supposed to be there as a figure to be arresting people.
The fight.
It tells you the level of commitment this government brings on the table to fight Galamsey.
Yeah.
To have a whole MDF CEO going out there to do the job. Where are the others? Where is the task force? Where are they? So and you find all this lingering. It tells you who really is behind this Galamsey thing. It was an alleged case that the president, former President Akufo-Addo, was the kingpin of Galamsey. This issue, this propaganda was upheld by the incumbent government today. That time, that yes, because he hasn't been able to pin it down, it means he's a kingpin. Today, who is trying to be the kingpin? Who looks like the kingpin of Galamsey today? Because you are in power. Why don't you take your own advice? Why don't you implement your own advice 8 years ago? You have what it takes. Today, you are saying that an SOE is not necessary. Yet, we have this thing ongoing. Your MDF leader is the one doing the arresting. I think you are the kingpin. But these things will evolve fully for Ghanaians to appreciate whose efforts rather went a long way to pin down Galamsey.
So I can't wait to hear the responses from the Interior Minister on this subject. Now, before we get off the subject quickly, when it comes to press freedom, with regards to these kinds of things, how can citizens and journalists hold ministers accountable during these briefings? My concern is that when these ministers are answering questions, there's a way they politically will answer a question where you and I know that the question is not answered, but there's not much you can do about the follow-up. That's one of the things I'm hoping will not be happening in this series, because when we ask about something that leads to from point A to point B, in the next thing, I want to see where we ended up from point B, where it leads to, if it is point C or it moves on to D. Because if we are not consistent with the way we follow stories, we follow responses, we follow the actions, we follow the promises, because some of these responses will come with action plans. That's my major concern there. So I feel like the journalists, the media houses, anybody who is going to be given the chance to be following these stories, we don't just have to come on the TV or on the radio and do propaganda and talk about whatever. I mean, one of my disappointment when it comes to politics in this country is how this kind of drink here we are seeing as green, but if somebody comes and then wants to defend it with their lives and say it's black, it's one of my biggest challenges when it comes to politics in this country. And they'll defend it with their lives. I mean, so we need to follow these stories, and then all the media houses, the journalists involved, we plead with you. Do your jobs well. Probe, ask. I mean, thankfully, all of these things are going to be aired. We are going to see them. So when it's happening, we'll all know if it's you who's doing your job or if it's the ministers responsible for the various portfolios that are not doing their jobs. And that way, I believe we can be able to get some answers. Now, finally, on this story, if this government gets this accountability series correct, do you think it will be a precedent set for coming or governments that will come after this?
You know, every government has had its minister for information. I mean, that was the position, the role meant for this in the previous government. You had Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, who was now engaging the public on every government initiative. Today, it's led by the Minister for Government Communications in collaboration with the Minister of Interior. And who doesn't want accountability? Who doesn't want government to come clean with everything it's doing to keep the public in check? But you know, you mentioned something. If it will be done well, that is the only issue. You can only do it to please some things. To do politics with this accountability series, who in its own, I mean, you have so many things happening that, are you sure that the government will be willing to answer to all of these things? That's the question I'm asking. Because the whole lot that will happen, a whole lot of fire to put yourself under. So I'm just going to watch and then appreciate the integrity of this session to see if it's really worth the sort of accountability series that we're trying to do. Are we going to be fully transparent and honest with our answers, or be political, which you mentioned? Because if it's just a political show off, then it's not relevant. Should go and sit somewhere and do our thing. But if it's a moment where government will come clean, answer things right, which I doubt, because we all know how things work within this political space. Then they will be worth the sort.
All right.
So let's see what happens today.
Definitely. So I'll get into some responses or comments from our viewers, but on social media so far. So from the what is trending so far on social media with regards to this accountability series? So someone said the accountability series, that is Amma for Justice. That's the handle. Amma for Justice says the accountability series is a good start, but we've seen such promises before. I'll believe it's when tough questions are actually answered on live TV.
It is at that point where you begin when government becomes more sincere and honest, then you know that at least we are heading somewhere. But if it's a pick and choose based on who asks the questions that makes you feel good, then we don't have to do this at first, because then we won't go anywhere. Because there will be questions, tough ones asked, tough questions, which I believe they'll be asked. I've got some comments here as well. This one says, good morning, Ajiman. I just want to draw your attention to something. When the MPP was in power and doing similar things, where were all these journalists? The silence then was deafening. So while I agree that what happened may not have been fair, in a way it served her right. They did far worse things that people either ignored or downplayed. We can't keep pretending the double standards don't exist. Ablekuma North wasn't just a rerun, it was a warning. A system that allows such chaos in one constituency could break down completely. In a general election, this isn't about one seat, it's about the future of electoral integrity in Ghana. We are here for the drama though. Isaac from Tema. This is from Ellen, says it had to ignore how violence and confusion at the Ablekuma North have been swept under the rug by the NDC people. If the roles were reversed, the headlines and outrage would be endless. Let's be fair. Wrong is wrong, no matter which party is in power. This is from Mohammed, says, if NPP had overseen the kind of violence we saw in Ablekuma North, they would have called it election rigging. Let's not pretend the process was clean. It clearly wasn't. The real one shouldn't have gone ahead under these conditions. This is from Elon from Botre, says, our political system thrives on short-term visibility instead of long-term solutions. If the accountability series is to work, it must not become a platform to score political points or shade positions parties. It should focus on results and reform. You know, I mean, these are very great comments, but one thing I just want to emphasize is that not for once should anyone say that anything that happened was well deserving.
I agree.
The Honorable Howard Commission, who was assaulted,
I totally agree.
the NPP organizer who was assaulted, if you say somewhere and say they deserved it, there were other innocent persons who got hitched through this process.
How fair is this to these innocent people?
And to they always say to people who have not appreciated the trajectory of these violent activities so far as election is concerned. It traces back as in 1996, where these two parties have always given each other a tit and tat
Yeah.
of whatever dose they gave. And everybody comes and does something, overlooking the system because they want to drive a lesson home. Today, you've driven your lesson beautifully at Ablekuma North. There's another by-election at Akwetia, and we have heard that, well, in Akwetia, it will be worse. Let us not set for ourselves a precedent that we will not be able to erase.
I completely agree.
Election isn't the end of life.
It's not the end of life.
We shouldn't make elections everything in this country. We should be careful how we gratify elections and make it look like a doomsday. It's serious. It's very serious.
Yeah. Well, still on X, Joyce Bauer says, we'll now hear the quiet wings too. Let's see if this platform tells us the real stories or just cherry-picked narratives. And then from Felix Kwachufusu, he says, Presidency Communications presents the Government Accountability Series. So we'll see how it pans out. Everybody will be watching this space, and we'll see how well the government will do. We'll see how well the journalists will do, and we'll see who wins. And this time, it's not a fight for anybody to win, actually, but I want to see who's doing their jobs and who's not doing it well. And then we'll see how the responses go. So we want to get straight into Mali in our fourth story. And General Assimi Goïta has signed into law a bill that grants himself a 5-year presidential mandate, renewable indefinitely, without any elections. The measure follows a military-appointed legislature passing the bill and recommendations from the junta-organized National Dialogue in April, which opposition parties boycotted. The law overrides Goïta's previous pledge to return to civilian rule by March 2024 and allows him to rule until at least 2030. This comes amid the dissolution of all political parties, a surge in kidnappings of pro-democracy activists, and increasing repressions.
Yes, it's very funny. You know, it got me laughing, and I'm like, really? Why are some African leaders like this? Why do we think that absolute power is the way to go?
Just made is the exact question I asked. The same thing.
Why?
Word for word. Why are some African leaders like this?
Why? This is a military government that took power wrongly.
Yes.
The ECOWAS was against whatever acts they put out over there through a coup d'etat. And then you come into power, and the best you can do is now prepare a bill that puts you in power for 5 years, renewable indefinitely.
Yeah.
What is your goal? No, I mean, to the Malian government, do you think you are the only one who has the wisdom to rule the government? That's what. There are some very hard facts that we should put out there. Democracy is a very beautiful term. You see, there are some precedents that have been set in some other countries. They're saying that when the fish that stinks, right? When it travels to a place, it now wants to inhabit itself in a very stinky place because that's where it belongs. You have Mali building ties with the likes of China, and then the likes of Russia. Why? Because they are the ones who subscribe to these systems. Where one person can be in power for a long time. Like they are the only persons who can lead the country. And I think that it is not a good precedent. It creates more room for strife. And it's a very autocratic way of leading a government, no matter what. I mean, this is an epitome of autocracy. Nobody can speak against you. You have the right to do anything. And when power is held for far too long, it corrupts. I always say, if power is held on for too long, it begins to corrupt. There should be a system of change of hands. It doesn't mean that you have lost anything, but at least ideas span out. Why do we change governments after 4 years? Well, we believe that whatever ideas that you have, and I have, the people who own the government, who the government lives by, who everything we do is for, should decide which choice they want to make. So if they made the same choice, fine. If they change their choice, fine, because it's all about them. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. Anything, any contradicting item is just a recipe for disaster, because one person can't hold power in their own bosom for that long. I think it's unfortunate.
It's actually unfortunate and quite depressing to see this happen again. I have a few concerns regarding this thing, because we do know, for example, in Burkina Faso, it's military leadership that's there at the moment. So I am thinking to myself, could this happen to Burkina Faso, where their leader now, even though he's being praised widely across the continent, could he also one day wake up and say that I'm passing the law that's going to allow me to rule for the next 10 years or 20 years or whatever, regardless of whatever he's doing?
He would love to. You know, this alliance of Sahel states, any government, see, take this from me, any government that got power through the wrong way and becomes the leader of a country would need a way to protect themselves. Because, you see, you saw power wrongly, and therefore you should be on the run. No matter what you do, you are on the run. So how do you sustain your gains? It's through such very ridiculous acts like this that will keep you on the space. Ghana, for example, His Excellency George Rawlings, during his time, acquired power wrongly through a coup d'etat, now sought to now develop the 1992 constitution, the Fourth Republic. That was solely to protect his interest. As president, he was able to repair the constitution at that time to secure him that you cannot prosecute a president when he's off the seat. It was meant for him. And that is why today, if you were a well-meaning government, you should be able to look at the 1992 constitution and say, it has to be amended. Why are you untouchable after your tenure? These are important. You should speak up to them. So it was for him. So today, this man has done this. If anybody is to make it that seat again, they will say, well, I think I like this act. It's very good. So until he dies, he remains president, and you can't touch him.
This is. I mean, I couldn't believe when I heard this, because this could give rise to violence in Mali. The people are likely to revolt against this decision. If not now, in the very near future, because there's going to be the situation where this president might come up with policies or do things that will not be pleasing.
And you can't do anything about it.
But unfortunately, he's turned the law around in his favor. And it's going to allow him to still be president for a while. So if you're not happy with what is going on, what do you do as a citizen of Mali? Like, this could give rise to a lot of violence.
When you retain, it's like when you put water in a container for a longer time, it begins to turn algae-ish. It turns bad. The same way, humans, if we hold power for far too long, we tend to be drunken by power, and we turn power corrupt. So that's the same thing he's doing over there. And it's unfortunate that is happening. And you know, for other countries who are also doing this, I always say it is a means to close their back. Because if he goes democratic, he knows that he will be prosecuted for his wrongful acquisition of power. And the only way is to develop such laws that will protect his interests over God knows when he will leave the seat. And these are the things. So the effect of coup d'etat is that now you have to keep looking at your back anytime. Look at what's happening in Togo. The Yadema family is like a pseudo monarchy in Togo for over 30 years. The father passed away and now passed power to 4 Yadema. You could appreciate if it was a democratic governance, democratic elections that were laid out there. It was like, I passed power to my child, and the child has been in power for a longer time. Has there ever been any formidable opposition in Togo? Recently, the Togolese were revolting. They are tired of this dynasty. They want a change, because now it becomes like a birthright. rather than something that is very competitive,
Yeah.
based on transformative policies and not because my father was president, I was president.
Yeah.
It should be based on policies that transform.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Now, policy-wise, ECOWAS can't do much because Mali has withdrawn from ECOWAS.
Yeah.
They did that in January 2024.
Yeah.
Can the AU sanction Mali with this kind of decision?
It should be. It should be able to sanction.
I just wanted that clarity because,
Yes.
unfortunately, many times some of these organizations or authorities are quiet, and I have a challenge with that. Why would the AU want to sit out on this? Maybe it's too early to say that, for us to react, to say that they haven't done anything yet. Let's give it some time and see. But I feel like this is the time for them to speak up.
So you know what? Let me tell you the predicament of the AU in this case.
Tell me.
The AU is composed by African countries, 54 countries in Africa, making the African Union.
Yeah.
It is led by an African Union commissioner who is now able to coordinate.
Yeah.
As at the UN, having the UN Secretary General. He's at the beckon of these leaders. His authority is what it is because these countries have now empowered him to coordinate the activity, but cannot lay sanctions.
Yeah.
That is why Russia was able to attack Ukraine, and the UN Security Council was able to do anything because I'm just a coordinator. It's like, what can you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are actually here at the mercy of these countries who are there. You were able to succeed if they all understand and submit themselves to the conventions that you are bringing on board. So the AU has not got. We don't have an African Union president like what Nkrumah wanted to propose. If Nkrumah's ideals were upheld, what's happened in Mali could have been curtailed.
Yeah.
Because then we'll have one leader who sits in charge of the Organization of African Unity, whose role is to see to it that Africa is in the right place. Like what US is doing, is claiming to do for the world. That it is a world leader and therefore ensures that the world is in the right place, but yet is compromised by some other countries, Israel puppeting them here and there, using them to perpetrate war against others because they are fully endowed. But if Africa had that top leader who was supreme and was voted for at the AU to be the leader of Africa by African countries who will now submit their sovereignty to that person, say, oh, well, Ghana represents the Africa now, today, tomorrow to be Egypt.
Yeah.
Then there's absolute power. Nobody could do a coup d'etat and go scot-free.
Yeah.
But today you have all this happening. It doesn't seem to be a reality today. It's a mirage. We can't have that. So you can have countries, coup d'etats may be able to erupt in some countries. And all you could do is just, well, because I have done this and I can't be part of the AU or ECOWAS, I will now go and form my own alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all.
And that's exactly what's happening at the
that's
moment.
all.
But at this point, the AU must begin to look at their conventions and whatever it is by which they rule.
They can only condemn. They can only openly condemn.
So,
but they cannot take any capital measure against this.
So in terms of coordinating, like you said, this is where you have to call the people that matter who can have an influence over Mali.
Like who?
The people they're trying to affiliate with. I know it might be difficult, but because the people Mali might try to affiliate with are probably also in line with Mali. But this is you coordinating. So find a way to amicably be in between these people, not necessarily to try to dissolve their friendship, so to speak, but have a conversation. Let's look at the bigger picture. Because at the end of the day, like we said, these things could give rise to violence.
It's going to be a difficult one, Phil. You know why? Because everybody within this contest has a ground.
Sure.
This Malian issue, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, all these countries that had broken away through coup d'etats and they are now on their own, had they believed they had a great cause. Why? Because for so many years, these francophone countries in the western part of Africa have been at the beckon of the French government
Yeah.
under very unfair treatment. You don't want to know what's going in there.
Yeah.
His Excellency Arikana Chiwambori Kwao openly condemned this continuation, the pact of colonialism, and she lost her job as AU ambassador to the US because the French government, as of today, still has a pact that continues colonialism and are tied to some of these francophone countries in Africa, where they send tribute. These countries are still languishing in poverty, yet they still pay tribute to the French government. Have you ever taken a stroll through the French countries? You will feel the poverty.
Yeah.
You will feel it. That so are these countries? Are they the ones paying tribute to these countries over there? Are their currencies being held on and managed by these foreign countries? Are their militaries being controlled by these people? And look at them; they are so impoverished. They can't but break away.
Yeah.
So on one hand, they have a legitimate cause. On the other hand, the peace and safety and safety that comes with it is costly. Look at what happened in Ghana in Kruba. Today we know, based on the classified information, that the Nkrumah government was overthrown, powered engineered by the CIA. What had the CIA got to do with Ghana's government? The CIA stays so far away in the US,
In the United States.
could have an interest in Ghana's government. So you see how the world is peddled by these strange names and powers. So today they are breaking away because they want to prioritize the development. So you can't blame them much. You can't blame them much.
I can understand the gravity of this matter, and it's not as easy as we are trying to make the ideal sound. But the truth of the matter is that, for me, the bottom line is this: these things should not be at the expense of the lives of people.
Yeah, I mean,
because that is where I feel like then that's where the people, the organizations like the AU must speak up. Because when lives are lost, I mean, imagine one day you wake up and everybody in Mali is gone. These people who are in power, who are they going to be ruling over? I mean, what's going to be the point when the majority of the people have died?
Yeah.
These are the things they should be thinking about. So if they are going to be sacrificing lives intentionally or unintentionally for these kinds of things, I mean, that's where my challenge is, because
So, I mean,
it's a big deal.
I mean, if you don't appreciate both sides of the story, you would not get the point.
Yeah.
For them, they feel like enough is enough. They have to find a way to secure their own interest, and the way to do so is what they are doing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you say it's an indictment on good governance and democracy. That can be from the diplomatic point of view. They don't care. They are tired of France's interference and encroachment of their governance. So, I mean, you appreciate the matter on this phase, you would want to stay in your own corner and mind your business, because to these countries, they think that it is done. They are done, and they will do whatever they have to do to cement their sovereignty.
It's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad. We'll quickly move on to the next story anyway. We are going into Nigeria right now. The Nigerian government has formally rejected pressure from the United States to accept deported Venezuelan nationals or third country detainees on Nigerian soil. This request, reportedly made under a new U.S. immigration enforcement push, has stirred diplomatic tensions. Foreign Minister Yusuf Tuga has announced unequivocally that Nigeria would not become a dumping ground for immigrants who have no ties to the country. He emphasized that Nigeria has its own domestic priorities, especially in the areas of youth employment, security, and then economic reform. This refusal comes amid threats from the U.S. to impose visa restrictions, sanctions, and even trade penalties if Nigeria does not comply. The U.S. reportedly made similar demands to several other African and Caribbean nations under its expanded deportation program. Another major issue here.
You know, the U.S. always finds ways and means to do what it wants to do. Ghana got a fair share of the Guantanamo, I would say, people who were arrested. I think they were prisoners. They were sent to Ghana, 3 Gitmo detainees. And that placed Ghana under a very serious radar, because Ghana has these people who are seriously sought after, and the US held them. One would say it was a way to endanger Ghanaians at that time until they were sent back. Today we have got deportees, people who had traveled from Venezuela and settled in the US. The US has now developed some very, I call it quite ridiculous or frivolous means that will pay you $1,000 and then you go. These people, I mean, I'm not for illegal migration. I'm not for it. But these people have no choice but to chase their welfare.
Yeah.
That's what they did in the US. They have been deported. Take them back to their country.
Yeah.
Why are you bringing them as far away as Nigeria? I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's an interesting thing. For me, the bottom line is that every country has the right to defend themselves in every way possible, because practically every country in the world now is a sovereign nation.
Yeah.
So they have the right to defend themselves.
Sure.
So I can understand Nigeria's position in this situation, but it is what it is. We'll see.
Nigeria has a stand. Well, I don't think I can accommodate these people because even my economy is struggling. I can't even feed my people.
Yeah.
President Nigeria threw their hands in the air and said that we are actually approaching a state of emergency. It's famine. So, I mean, they have the right to say no. No, we say no.
Well, so we'll see how these stories we have discussed so far pan out. We'll keep our lenses on them across the continent, and we see what comes out of them. In the next segment, it will be lifestyle, and coming up is the Ubuntu Fest 2025. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
From 21st to 25th July 2025, the Association of African Universities, in partnership with Mohammed VI Polytechnic University and supported by Mohammed V University, will host the 16th Quadrennial General Conference in the historic city of Rabat, Morocco. This 5-day gathering will bring together diverse higher education stakeholders, including heads of state, ministers of state, the higher education community, policymakers, researchers, industry, and development partners to co-create innovative solutions and forge partnerships that will revolutionize Africa's higher education landscape. Under the overarching theme, Shaping the Future of Higher Education for Innovation and Sustainable Development of Africa, the conference will focus on 9 sub-themes, including policy and governance, AI and technology-driven learning, curricular re-engineering, climate action, entrepreneurship, infrastructure funding, and the Sustainable Development Goals. The 16th Quadrennial General Conference promises to be a dynamic and engaging event, providing a platform for collaboration, networking, and the formation of impactful alliances. It will feature paper presentations and scientific sessions for academic exchanges, as well as exhibitions and plenary sessions for engagement of industry and development partners. Individuals or institutions interested in exhibiting, sponsoring the event, or securing paid speaking opportunities are encouraged to contact us or visit the website on the screen. Join us this July as we unite in purpose, break new ground, and shape the continent's future together. AAU, the voice of higher education in Africa. To register for this event, visit the website on the screen.
This program is proudly sponsored by Venom Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Bigo Drinks. This program is proudly sponsored by Venom Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Bigo Drinks.
Welcome back from the break, and this is still the Hello Africa Morning Show. And you're welcome to the lifestyle segment. My name is Jemima Teladem Duchi, and guess what? Today we are diving into one of the most important events happening right here in Ghana. That is the Mandela Hall Week 2025, hosted by Unimark IG. So this year we are celebrating. This year's celebration is boldly branded as Ubuntu. I'm sure you won't, I mean, you can't wait to hear what Ubuntu means. And the theme for this year's celebration is reclaiming influence, story, and expression, which is Rise. So it's a 4-day event full of culture, creativity, tradition, and it's youth empowered. Joining me today or this morning is Mr. Kevin Osai Ahene, who is the Public Relations Officer of the Mandela Hall, Unimark IG. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing?
Jemima, I'm fine by God's grace and you.
I'm doing very well. You're welcome to the lifestyle segment of Hello Africa. So we are hearing of the Mandela Hall Week celebration, which is going to be a 4-day event, as I said. But then before we get into the whole week and what it entails, why Ubuntu Feast? What's the meaning? And even, I mean, I want to know the meaning and why it was even chosen for this year's celebration.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity.
You're
Thanking God as well. Well, Ubuntu, because that is Mandela Hall's slogan.
Okay.
And it means I am because you are.
Okay, I am because you are.
The impression here is love, togetherness, and unity. That is the reason why we used Ubuntu. And it's actually, Mandela Hall is actually a traditional hall. Yes. So because it's actually our slogan. So that is why we have the African name as Ubuntu, because it's an African tribe hall.
Okay.
Yes. And the meaning is I am because you are.
I am because you are.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, the theme for this year's celebration is, Rise, which is claiming influence, story, and expression. How does this connect, to the students' experience at Unimark?
Okay. The reason is because we have realized that most our youth here sometimes have this fear to come out with this kind of confidence to voice out. So we use Rise because it's time for youth out there to open up their voices, connect, bond, have good networks. So this whole week that we are about to have, it's not just only for having fun, but also to give impact, to let it bring an impact to every youth out there, not only for Mandela, but for every single person in the country.
Okay, that's nice. So now it's a 4-day event, and we are very sure that there are a lot of events that are packed during this 4-day event.
Please.
So walk us through what is happening on this 4-day event.
Okay, so this 4-day event, on the 16th, we are starting. It's going to be a 4 days. That's 16th to 19th.
Okay.
And on the 16th is going to be the initiation night.
Okay.
The initiation night is because so far as you are a fresher, level 100 student, it's a nice way to welcome you in the hall, since it's a tribal hall. It's not like maybe you are doing an awkward something, but it's part of the tradition.
Okay.
I also came to meet it. So it's just that we want to give this kind of African vibe to the system.
Okay.
So we initiate you to welcome you as a new member of Mandela Hall. So it's not just by just writing your name and say Mandela. So there's this. So with the initiation activities together, the activities, we have bonfire and other stuff. You put on an African wear cloth to show that indeed you're an African, to represent your country. So that is the reason why we initiate them, to welcome them fully, which is part of our tradition, to the hall.
So what other event is happening? I think you just spoke about the 16th.
On the 17th, you're having the debate, which is in quote, the echoes of the nation, the rise of youth voices in the country. Okay, the debate is the educative aspect of our celebration. We can't just have fun. At least we have to also give some kind of learning aspect here. So this is for them to learn how to debate. When you are done with school and you go out there, who knows where you'll be. If you get the experience now, when you go out there, you can make the world a better place. So the debate is for them that's the impact here. We want them to learn something, how to debate with motions and other stuff. Yes, so that is.
And I see the artist night. Are there any artists you guys are inviting?
Oh yes.
So who is coming?
Actually, I can't release that.
Oh,
now.
you can't release that. Oh,
interesting. I anticipate like who is coming?
Who is coming? Just like I have asked, who is coming? Okay.
But it's going to be one. We are not just bringing anyone. We are going to bring someone who is a solid artist. Like it's not going to be one.
And you guys have money.
Oh,
you guys have money.
So yeah, let's just anticipate for what is coming. And we also have the worship and praise night. In everything, we have to also add God to it because He gives us life and everything to push us. So we have the
worship night. After you guys have done having all the fun, you want to sum it up and praise God. You rather didn't start with praising God. Anyways, so how does Mandela Hall Week go beyond entertainment to influence youth identity and their purpose?
Okay, it goes beyond to the extent that we are not just limiting it to our students of UNIMAC IG, but we are inviting other people, other students from any university. You're all welcome. When you come, whatever activities you partake, the impression is you bond with each other, you connect, because who knows who you might meet out there after school. So all what we want to do is for us to have this kind of togetherness, to bond with outsiders or even students on our campus, so that to bring this kind of collective love and unity out there.
Okay, so you made mention of the fact that you are looking at inviting people who are not just UNIMAC students, but people who are from outside and all that. So I want to know, how can other students or the alumni of UNIMAC engage in this upcoming Mandela Hall Week event?
Okay, so I'm happy you mentioned the alumni. They can engage in the sense that they have passed through the system before. So they can show us their experience, how it went through. Everyone had a rough journey though, but how come now they are at where they are? Telling us in their time of also them being part of the hall or even outside, just for us to know that indeed, when we move out there, these are the things we are going to face. The school is not just the end. How to be on the job field. So they just show us the experience they've been through and how we can make it. And also have a good network with them.
So I guess they are coming then.
They are coming. We are inviting the alumni to come and connect with every student of UNIMAC IG, especially the Mandela Hall members.
Okay. So thank you very much, Kevin Osai Ahene. Right, I got it right.
Yes,
who is the PRO for Mandela Hall UNIMAC IG. So thank you so much for coming.
Okay.
We are hoping to be there.
But if you give me a little bit of chance, I would like to give some shout out.
Okay.
So I want to give a shout out to my president, the woman king, Her Excellency Mrs. Clarissa Bando.
I
also want to give shout out to all my Mandela Hall executives, especially my deputy Jennifer, who is also helping me a lot. I can't leave this place without also giving a big shout out to my minister, who happens to be my spiritual father, Reverend El Shaddai El Atombo, for his prayers and support, for the support he's giving us, and to Moses Desire Kuyo, who is a student leader, former Mandela Hall vice president, and former president of Mandela, who is also supporting us. He's not an ancestor. Actually, if you pass through the system, you call you an ancestor. So shout out to him, and shout out to my family members, the Ahene family. I love you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So this has been of course, the Hello Africa Morning Show, and this is the lifestyle segment. And we can't wait to see what the Mandela Hall Week event has for us. It's happening live at Unimark. Thank you very much, and see you same time next time. My name is Jemima Daladem Toche.
Is proudly sponsored by Venom Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Bigo Drinks.